All right, started. All right. So once again, I will welcome everyone to June's PatternFly community meeting. It's a little bit shorter than some we've had in the past, but that is okay. So without further ado, I think I'll jump right into some of the top agenda items. Oh, I guess I'll introduce myself. I am Nicole. I'm the PatternFly Scrum Master. And let's see, since our last community meeting, we've had one release, milestone 2022.07. The first link on this slide is a link to the release highlights. So that's like sort of a summary of some of the key things included in the release, including a preview of what we are working on and some of the projected release dates for some of our upcoming features, if you're curious. Also, I have links to the full React and core release notes on this slide as well. So here, I'll include the link to both of those, to the slide deck again in the chat for anyone wants to access those. I also will include the PDF of this slide deck in the mailing I send to the PatternFly mailing list after this as well, so you can access these links then too. Some of the highlights we will cover in a demo from the devs in just a bit. Before we go into team updates, project updates, I have a few quick community questions and updates to pose to the group here. We've had a lot of conversation on the PatternFly side lately about virtualized tables. And for people who may not know, virtualized tables are tables that are possibly so big that if you tried to render every single row on page load, it would be just like insane, like thousands and thousands of rows. So we make it smart and only render exactly what's on visually on the page without having to scroll at any given point. And so it makes it much more performant for large data sets. So I was curious if anyone here, any products or projects currently use or hope to use a virtualized table. I'll leave it with, I'll start with that. Feel free to unmute or raise your hand if you think that, yeah, we talk about virtualized tables in our product. That's something that we wish PatternFly talked with us more about.
I think, Nicole, I think that, I don't know for sure, but I think the OCM UI plans on definitely using some sort of visualization. We are moving the cluster list history to our application. So we are merging two tables. That's going to be a big table. So I presume we're going to use visualization. Again, this is the OCM UI.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, James put in the chat that we still have questions about accessibility, which is one of the questions. One of the reasons we've been talking about virtualized tables is, can we deliver one that's accessible for screen readers and things like that? So one of the other questions I had is whether products tend to paginate and filter large amounts of data on their back end, or if that's something that they do like in the front, in their memory. I feel like if a lot of products paginate things in the back end, then virtualization is not as high a demand, possibly. What do people have thoughts about that?
I know that, yes, we do. On the OpenShift cluster management API, we definitely use all the pagination we can get on any endpoint.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, for me in the past, we keep everything in a database, and you do pagination and sorting and filtering with your queries to the database, and it works really well. I think we've moved to having a certain amount of data in memory so that we can do searching, and specifically fuzzy searching across the data the user is interested in. And that's really hard to do in a database, get that fuzzy searching working. So I see benefits to both.
Yeah, thinking about it, James, we also have some points where we keep the UI from PageNet and just get everything from the backend, because there's a need across the application for like names or a list of IDs to connect everything and sort of wire up. So those sort of flat requests get cached. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. We might pose these questions at office hours as well if we have some different product teams represented there. Or maybe we'll hear answers to questions in the future as these questions go out to the mailing list later. Thank you. The last little update, I don't know if I've mentioned it at a community meeting before, but historically, PatternFly has used a forum, like online messaging board, for collecting questions as another way to pose questions or document discussion. But it has not gotten very much use in the past few years at all. We are transitioning away from the PatternFly forum and beginning to use GitHub PatternFly discussion board, which also is still relatively quiet right now, but you'll probably see that link higher up in places now, so that if you have questions or ideas that we want to persist longer than they might on like a Slack channel, for example, or could be converted to issues or stories in the future, GitHub discussion board is a great place to do that. So there's a link to it right there in the slide, and then you'll probably see it sprinkled here and there in various communications and things like that. All right, but that's all the updates I have today. So we're going to transition toward the design team update. So I'm going to hand it over to Matt.
Yeah, I just have the one slide, Nicole, so why don't you just continue to share.
Perfect.
So these are some of the major things that the design team has been working on. Most of these have been kind of ongoing efforts that have over the past multiple months. But the first big one is visual refresh. We are looking at introducing a brand new PatternFly look and feel, hopefully next year sometime. So the visual team has been working on that. We do have some initial design concepts for that. If anybody wants to learn more about that or has feedback or input on this topic, feel free to reach out to either myself or Michael Seladonia, who's our visual lead, who's spearheading that effort. On the website side, we've been focusing a lot on improving our website user experience. We have kind of incrementally been making improvements. We recently introduced improvements to the responsiveness of pages with long tables of contents. Our component pages, which have the table of contents on the right-hand side, that used to hide at smaller screen sizes. We've changed that, so now it converts into a drop-down menu that's available from the top of the screen on smaller screen sizes. So some of you may have already noticed that, but that should help a lot for people that are using the referencing those component pages a lot. Some other things that we're currently, first I do want to thank those of you who participated in the TreeJack studies we were doing on the PatternFly information architecture. We are kind of moving forward with looking at reorganizing our site content a bit and getting that test input has been very valuable in terms of trying to validate some of the ideas. And so we don't have an exact date for when those changes will be made, but look for that as something that will hopefully happen between now and the end of the year, along with introducing a visual browsing view, which will allow you to visually browse for components. Chart accessibility. we've been looking at our charts in the context of how useful and readable they are for colorblind users. There are places in our charts where a lot of teams are using red and green, and we want to just look at how we can make those solutions a little bit more accessible. So Michael Saldown and Ethan Kim have been doing work in that area. Finally, and just kind of adding some additional guidance for things like placing text buttons, delete confirmation dialogues. There's links there to those issues. If you have any input or want to follow along with what we're doing, feel free to drill into those issues. I think that's basically my update. Any questions? No, I'll hand it back to you, Nicole.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Next up, we have some updates from the core team. I think I'll hand it over to, first up is Eric. I'll stop sharing.
Hello. So for me, for the core side, we had some slight visual improvements made to our calendar month component. I can share my screen to show that off real quick. So on the left side of the screen, we have our previous look from our 2022-06 release. As you can see, the buttons that move forward and backwards the months are spaced a fair bit more out compared to the rest of the calendar. And also might be difficult to see for some, there was also a sort of double border between the month select and the year inputs elements up here. So the late our 2022-07 release made some improvements to that. So now the buttons that move forward and backward a month are placed more in line with the rest of the calendar, so it looks visually more like a nice little box. And we also remove that double border between the month select and year inputs elements here. That's basically the update for the calendar month from the core side. Okay. Very simple, but it looks, I think looks nicer.
Yes, thank you so much. Next up on the core side, some updates from Sarah.
Okay, I just have a couple and I'll share. Oh, it won't let me. New computer. Okay, if Nicole, you could go to the utilities text page, that would be great.
Okay, let me find it.
So I'll just type through it while you're going there. So it's just a quick update. There's a new utility under the text utilities, and it's to set the font family. And this was a request because we do provide the monospace font, which is useful for perhaps you have some like numeric tabular data that you want the digits to line up or something like that. So for completeness, then we have each of the fonts that we provide. There's a utility class so that you can access those. And then the second thing is if you could go to the form component, please. And we have the under expandable and nested field groups example. This used to be a big, long, complicated form with lots of extra things in it. And so I've taken this example and pared it down to just show how to do expandable and nested field groups. And then if you could go to the HTML demos, you can still find that that form over under complex form. So you can still find that form with all the different things to see how they fit together, but now it's over in HTML demos, sort of where it belongs to show a more complicated example, putting lots of different pieces together. That's it. Thank you for sharing for me.
Of course. All right. Next up is Matt.
Oh shoot, I can't share either. All right,
Okay.
we'll
Oh,
do
okay.
the same thing Sarah did. If you can go to, sorry, if you can go to, could you share again, Nicole?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
The
If you can
table.
go
What am I going to?
the tables and the table demos. And the HTML demos, and I think it's the last. You scroll all the way down to the bottom. Yep, that's it. So a request came in from Steve Goodwin on the OpenShift team to. I don't see your screen now.
I know. My bad.
Uh-oh.
Okay, here we go.
The request was to update the vertical alignment in the tables, and really it was a result of not providing documentation as to how to control images in table cells. So he includes in his issue a screenshot of how that throws off kind of the vertical alignment and what he wants it to be. And instead of changing the vertical alignment to top, which again will throw off the vertical alignment of table cell data if you change any of the subsequent font sizes for anything in the table, and it all kind of just doesn't really do what you want it to do. So instead of updating that vertical alignment, I included this demo, which shows how you can control images by putting them into a flex layout inside of a table data cell. And what that does is it allows all of the text to align regardless of its font size, and it allows you to control the image placement within that cell. And in the documentation, we added some text there that kind of explains what's happening and why. And that's really it.
All right. All right. Awesome. Next up is Michael. Before I stop sharing, I'm going to make sure you can share.
We'll see. I also
Hey, you have a new computer too.
Yeah. I did try to test it yesterday, so let's see if it works.
Me sharing.
All right.
I see it.
Yeah, cool. So this is just a small update. We added a new label. It's the gold label. It was very similar to the orange label, and so as a result of adding this, we also updated the background color for the orange label. And the cool thing about that is we added a new global color for that to support the orange label. And you can see in the PR file list that the variables global palette orange 50, that's in line with other color palettes that we have, where we have a -50 for the background color that we use in places like labels. So we updated the orange background color to reference this new orange 50, and then added this gold label here. And that's it. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I pulled up the, this doesn't work. I pulled up this page, but it was in a different tab. I messed that up, and I forget that I can't share more than just the tab. So we updated the background color for this orange label here, and then here's the gold label at the bottom, and then that's it. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. I think that's all of the core updates for today. And so now we'll move on to React. And the first one is from Titani.
Hey, good morning. Huh. I can't share my screen either.
Okay, I could do
What's
it.
going on? Okay.
Is it under menu?
Yes. The first one is under, well, I wanted to show the menu and the demo.
Okay.
So under menu, it's like with checkbox example. All right, thanks, Nicole. Yeah, so we continue to add some features to our menu component. And this last milestone, we added the checkbox menu. So as you can see here, you now have the option of adding checkboxes to a menu option. And then we also added a demo to demonstrate how you might pair it with a toggle for a checkbox select. Yes, right there. So we have the toggle in the menu here. Right now, the demo does not have keyboard interactions working. So that's going to be a follow-up issue here. So this is a beta feature. So if you want to try it out and give us feedback, that'd be great. And that's it. Thanks for sharing, Nicole.
Of course. Thank you. Next up is Austin.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. Let's see if I can have any luck with doing a screen share.
Awesome.
All
I
right.
see it.
So on the left here, we have a previous release, and on the right, the current release. And this is the same example, just the two different releases. And I'm going to navigate through this previous release example using the screen reader. And you'll see that as we go through, there's nothing to indicate to a screen reader user that this data list item is selectable, or even if they know it's selectable, whether it's selected or not at the current moment, versus in the current release here on the right. As we progress through using screen reader navigation, the screen reader announces that we are on a selectable item and announces whether it's currently selected or not. Everything else is still reachable using the screen reader controls as normal. These items only show up if you're using a screen reader. If you just tab through the items, they work just as they did before. And from a implementation standpoint, this is designed to be really easy to add this improved accessibility into existing implementations of selectable data lists, and only requires a single prop with two options dictating if it should be a single selectable using a radio or multiple select using a checkbox, and a callback that executes when that input is clicked. And that's everything I have.
So easy to demonstrate, but a very hard fought to find an accessible solution for that. So thanks so much for that work, Austin. All right, next up is Eric with another React update.
Hello again. So previously we had several Dropdown-like components whose flip behavior wasn't working exactly correctly. This includes our Dropdown components, select components, and context selector component. And let me share the screen again real quick. So again, on the left, we have the 2022-06 previous release. As you can see, when I open this Dropdown component and I scroll up and down, it doesn't flip at all. Kind of just stays as it is. And on our right side, our 2022-07 most recent release, I open the Dropdown and scroll up, it flips. Scroll down, it flips very nicely. And in order to opt into that behavior, all I need to do is very simply pass in our new is flip enabled prop and basically ensure that the Dropdown is not appended inline. Here I use menu append to the parents, which is our recommended way of appending things, but this would also work with document body or using a query selector on some other component on the page or element on the page. My mistake. That's basically it for the flip behavior for dropdown components.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. We have a question.
Yes, thanks. Eric, thank you. That is the single most expected feature from our team. So that's amazing. I'm wondering, how does this apply, or how does the implementation work when the component is static? What I mean is, if the dropdown is placed at the bottom of the page or the viewport, but the page is static and there is no scroll area, will it still do its job, and will it do less work in terms of performance? Was it thought through?
In terms of the first question, if it were placed at the bottom of a page where there is no scroll area, that is a good question. Let me see if I can actually really quickly. I may actually have to test that out outside the meeting. That is a good question.
Oh, sure.
If I can get something going before the meeting ends, I'll definitely demo it though.
Yeah,
Oh,
my
great. But we can definitely
suspicion.
take it offline.
Yeah,
Mhm.
my suspicion is that it uses React Popper and Popper Core, I think, kind of
Mhm.
together to build it.
Mhm.
And performance-wise, it shouldn't be too much of a hit. It basically it checks on scroll events if it needs to update, and it has a debounce to make sure it's not checking like an absurd number of times. So it shouldn't be too much of a performance hit or anything like that, but we can definitely look into it if you have any concerns.
Yeah, obviously my concern is if it's possible not to attach at all if we don't need to.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
think
okay,
there should also be a way to already maybe even, or now that we've enabled Flip, at least certainly it should be possible now to always have it open up without having to. You can set its position to open up possibly, and if that's the next iteration of this, then maybe that's the next iteration. But now that Flip is enabled, that should be something that's very easy. So we'll have to.
Right, and the position and the top position when it's static is sufficient,
Yeah.
I think. So it's a good answer. Cool, thanks.
Yeah, I know that that's true for a number of our drop-down-like components. I don't know if that was fully feature enabled with this update or not. But so yeah, Eric will check it out. All right, the last React update is from Jenny.
Hello, good morning. I'm just gonna present. Let's see. Alrighty. So some sweet new updates to some more table demos. So pretty much all of these have been completed and aligned with core for the most part. There are a couple that are still waiting on some changes from design, but otherwise these are all done. So for the most recent release, we had these empty states come in. So let's see, we have this. It's been fully aligned with core, so that has now been put into a page, as you see here. And it just matches the core demo. Same with the loading state here as well, and the error state too. Also, there's been some updates to the sticky first column table. So this has also been placed in a full page. And then here we actually had some good review feedback and we made some updates. So for example, there have been some more columns that have been added because previously you couldn't really see this sticky first column behavior going on unless you made the screen really huge. So that's great. And then also we expanded this column a bit here because previously it was also getting truncated, which is something that we did not want. So now you can see the full first column, nothing is getting truncated, and then the functionality works the same way. And then just as well, This is sort of something that's been going on for the most recent work, but while this was happening, we realized that the dashboard header wasn't completely aligned with what was going on in core as well. So this is, you can see a bit that there's the buttons here do align with the core demos as well. But yeah, that's going to be something that's going in for this upcoming release. So my lips are sealed, and I'll have some more to talk about that in the next community meeting. But yeah, that is about it for my updates this time.
Awesome. Yeah, hopefully it'll be very helpful to have all of our table demos in full page layouts, because that's how most people are using our tables. So thank you so much for that, Jenny. Okay. So that is everything we have in terms of updates. So I can share the screen again for me. We have a few moments, plenty of moments if people have lots of questions. A few moments for question and answer. Before I totally open the floor, I'm gonna remind people that our next office hours are tomorrow. So there's lots more opportunity also for especially more maybe technical questions there, but so that's true. So that's exciting. Look forward to that tomorrow. Hopefully we'll see you there. And there are some other links on the slide deck to things like the mailing list if you haven't joined, the public PatternFly community calendar to keep you up to date on things like office hours and community meetings and such, and my contact information if you want to present or have any questions about the community meeting. So, all right, with that, we have a few moments for questions. Does anybody have anything before I call it? All right. Well, with that, oh, it looks like putting it at the bottom does enable the auto flip. So if you don't want to use the direction up for whatever reason, you also have this as an option to use the flipping behavior to take care of the logic for you. Exciting stuff.
Yes, great. That's what I was after. Thank you.
Awesome.
And also, I have maybe a small question. You weren't able to present. Anyone? Are you all guys switching to new computers? I don't know if that's a personal question or.
I don't think that's true for everyone.
No, I'm not, and I have re-enabled screen recording several times, so I don't know why. It must be a software update thing or something. I'm not exactly sure why it keeps happening, but it does.
Wild.
All right. I think it's the end of the month token resets or what have you.
Possibly. All right, I'll stop the recording and